Thank you, Miriam. Anything? Okay. So let's briefly go over again what a proposed plan, draft remedial action plan is. That's again a long title for a single document here that you should have or be able to read online. And it presents the Navy's preferred cleanup alternative for Site 24. In other words, we had a bunch of different ways that we put together about how to clean up this site, and we have picked one of them as our choice, a proposal. And we are presenting the proposal to the state of California and to you for the 30-day comment period, including tonight, where you can give any comments on Site 24. And public input is considered when selecting the final remedy, and that's true. That Danielle and Mr. Clark and I are all going to look at each comment. It's in a special part of the record of decision that will come out called the responsiveness summary, and we will have to respond to each and every comment or substantive question that's in the summary document. And that when we do that, we also look at what we have before us, our choice, and then often look at that with the state, and then determine if we need to make changes or not in our preferred choice. Okay, next. So we're going to now talk about Site 24. And again, if you're on the island here, this is Site 12, where the residential neighborhood is. This is Site 24, and this is Avenue M that runs through it, as I indicated. And this is, of course, the east side of the island. This is East Bay over here. So we're talking about Site 24 tonight. Okay, there's a collection of buildings on there, and then there's groundwater. That is water that's beneath the ground that has contaminants in it from the dry cleaning plant operations that used to go on there for a period of time. And Danielle Janda, she's the project manager. And she will talk to us now and go through each aspect of the site and describe her site to us, and then ultimately the Navy's proposal on how to clean it up. Danielle?
I, like Keith said, I'm Danielle Janda. I'm an engineer with the Navy and the project manager for the site. So Site 24, as we've mentioned, the dry cleaning facility several times. So that's how it was identified. So dry cleaning facilities are notorious for causing contamination because dry cleaning generally uses really toxic solvents, especially PCE. And so during operations, spills that happen from time to time can contaminate the groundwater. This site also includes, it just happens to be within the border, but this building over here was used as for training activities for radiation detection.
Could you show that again? You're really quick.
And then this area over here was used as a former supply department, former salvage yard. So both these sites are identified as radiologically impacted because radiological materials may or may not have been used during Navy operations. As of now, we don't have any evidence that there's radiological contamination there, but we, as part of our remedy, we're planning to do an investigation to make sure that there is no contamination there. So this is a timeline of the environmental program at Site 24. So it was identified as a site in 1988, and we've been doing investigations and evaluations on this since then. And one major amount of work that we've actually already done at this site is we did a treatability study. So from 2003 to 2012, we did a bunch of studies using a technology to try to clean up the groundwater and see if it worked. And now that after we finished that, this last summer, we actually evaluated some alternatives for cleaning up the rest of the groundwater that remains after that treatability study. Next slide, please. This is about our treatability study. Basically what we did was we injected a special type of bacteria and nutrients into the groundwater. So this is an injection well, and we injected stuff into the groundwater. And as this bacteria grew, it breaks down contaminants. So PCE, that's the solvent that's generally used in dry cleaning facilities. The bacteria is able to break down PCE to these other contaminants, and it ultimately creates ethene and ethane, which is non-toxic. So this is a way that we can basically do our remediation, clean up the groundwater while it's in the ground. So we don't have to do a lot of intrusive activity like taking out soil, taking down buildings, or anything like that. Next slide. So this shows how effective our treatability study was. So this figure on the left, this is a schematic that shows the extent of contamination before we implemented this study. So we had contamination that started from the dry cleaning center, so this is the former dry cleaning facility, and it contaminated the groundwater towards the bay, so it extended across the entire site. After the treatability study, now this is more what the groundwater contamination looks like now. So we have a few plumes here and there, but it's a lot reduced since the original plume. Also, the magnitude of the concentrations have decreased. So it originally, before the treatment, our concentrations were about 64,000 parts per billion. Now we're at 1,000 parts per billion. So we cleaned up a lot of it, but it's still there, and now we have to finish cleaning it up, and that's why we're here to select the cleanup alternative.
Before you change that, could you show on the chart to the right where the dry cleaning plant was?
This was the dry cleaning plant.
Thank you.
So the main concern with these types of contaminants is vapor intrusion. So what that means is these contaminants are volatile, so they vaporize into the gas phase easily. So here, imagine you have your source of contamination, this is the groundwater, and it vaporizes and then migrates into the indoor air, and that basically contaminating indoor air concentration. So that's what we need to make sure that that doesn't happen, so that it's safe for people to build future buildings at this site. So there are two ways that you can determine whether or not that's a risk or not. So you can either take your groundwater data and you can do a calculation to determine what the concentration would be inside the building, or you can directly measure the gas that's in the air pockets in the soil directly beneath the building, and that's known as soil gas. Next one. We've already done some preliminary soil gas sampling. In 2011, we collected 8 samples. So these blue dots are the location of the soil gas samples. All of those concentrations were really low, so which indicates that vapor intrusion is not necessarily a risk for these locations. However, our density of the data is not extensive enough to really determine that. So we are planning, the next slide please. We are planning to collect a lot more soil gas samples. So that this upcoming spring and summer, we're planning to collect 50 soil gas samples across the site to determine where exactly we may have a vapor intrusion issue. Next slide, please. And lastly, like I said, we don't know if there's any radiological contamination at these 2 areas, Lot 69, which was the former salvage yard, and Building 342, which was the radiation training school. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a radiological scan of 100% of the site, and we're going to collect 100 samples and analyze them for radium and cesium.
I'm sorry, which was, can you point to the radiation training?
So all of these dots are samples we are going to take and analyze for radium and cesium.
Or which was the training school?
This was the training school.
That's life learning.
No.
So it was a training school during Navy operations to detect radiation.
Building 342, 343, and 344. 342 had high levels of radiation in it.
We have no evidence that there is any radiation, radiological contamination.
That's been
Yeah, next slide, please.
researched.